Should I 37F give him 43M another chance or run? Hi pals, I'm at a crossroads with my boyfriend of 7.5 months. We started off really well, but there have been some issues along the way. Right now we're in limbo and I don't know what to do. I met this really cool guy at speed dating 43M in December, let's call him M. I'm 37F. From first sight we were instantly connected. We talked for hours at the post-speed dating social and closed the bar, then walked in the cold Canadian winter for 40 minutes in the middle of the night because we didn't want to part ways. Then we went to our respective homes and texted for another hour before going to bed. All week we texted non-stop, and then our first date a few days later lasted all weekend. We started seeing each other every few days and he was a gentleman, paying for dinner, snacks, Uber, and making sure I got home safely. He went home to the US for Christmas and invited me to spend the weekend with him in upstate New York for New Year's. He bought me a plane ticket to go meet him. We spent a lovely weekend together and drove back to Canada chatting happily or sitting in comfortable silence. Things were going great. He asked me to be exclusive on that drive. He also mentioned that he had gotten out of a relationship the year prior and hadn't really expected to start dating seriously for another few months. We started spending more and more time together in January, especially since I lost my job halfway through the month. He himself wasn't working at the time either, but his work is highly seasonal and he had substantial savings. He didn't seem worried about finances. He was also in the late stages of getting a new job. He still had his ex's stripper pole in the bedroom, which bothered me. Our values and goals seemed to align. Later in January he asked me to be his girlfriend. We booked a vacation for February and paid for it $5,050. Things seemed to be going well, but he would say things to me that were hurtful and confusing. He said he and his ex loved each other, but love was not enough when I asked why it ended. One time after we had a shower together and I was still naked, he told me how he had made a sacred vow to spend his life with his ex and work through their problems no matter what. Apparently they had had a non-religious, non-legal wedding in Iceland and she left him for the second time less than a year after that. He had been legally married when he was in his early 20s and that woman had cheated on him within the first year of their marriage and they divorced. He took down the stripper pole the night before our vacation. He and I went on vacation in February and exchanged our first intentional I love yous. It had slipped out before and we made love for the first time. It was magical. We came back on Valentine's Day. At his apartment while we were relaxing and unpacking, he seemed down. He confessed that he was upset that his ex used to live with him. That was upsetting to me. Was he longing for her? Valentine's Day is supposed to be our day. A few days later we were texting and he said he was having a rough day because it was the anniversary of her moving out. I offered to come over to comfort him after I was done hanging out with friends. We exchanged some texts and I said that this was making me feel insecure and he tried to reassure me. I went over to the apartment and the whole place was a disaster. He had been binge eating junk and drinking. He was very affectionate and kind with me, but it was upsetting to see that he had been so distraught over his ex. We had just said I love you intentionally for the first time and made love for the first time days prior. Shouldn't he have been riding high from that and focused on us? He kept saying little comments about his former commitment to his ex in the weeks that followed. He also mentioned that their commitment ceremony pictures had been in a magazine. I don't know why he told me that. In late February he took me to the US to meet Hi's family and friends. It was a lovely and special time. We started talking about living together in New York someday. Even though he used to pay all the rent and everything for his ex, he wanted me to pay rent. That bothered me. Did he love me less? In March he would wake up before sunrise with me to make me breakfast before I fasted during Ramadan. It was really nice. In March we finally had a talk about the ex issue because it had been bothering me. He got angry and defensive. He tried to explain that he had talked about his commitment to his ex because he was angry that he took his vows seriously and she didn't. He said that we had a better physical connection. He explained he told me about the magazine because he didn't want it to come out later. In late March I introduced him to my parents. A big step for me. Later that month we ended up having more conversations about the ex issue because I couldn't get the reassurance I needed from him on that front. I felt like second best. He would sometimes say how he wished he had met me years prior and had never even dated his exes, but he would also say other things that would bother and confuse me. In some of our conversations he would say how I want to pretend his relationship didn't happen or that I wasn't acknowledging how important it was. That bothered me. Why do I need to acknowledge that? Why is he still talking about how important it was? Was I not important? In April we had a big fight about his ex and about the fact that he hadn't taken me out on a date in 6 weeks and I had planned all our activities during that time. He agreed that he needed to take me out on dates and make me feel special and corrected his behavior. He also was having financial worries and put in notice for his apartment with the intention of moving back to the States with his parents to save money. In May the move was on and he started packing up and making trips to the States to drop stuff off. In mid-May he went down to drop stuff off and attend a funeral. He asked me to think about how I felt about the relationship issue. I drafted an email about it but didn't send it right away because of the funeral and I knew he had a big drive back. On the drive back he called me and asked if I had posted one of the furniture I was going to sell for him. I hadn't gotten to it yet. He became enraged and fought with me then hung up. He called back and we started talking about the relationship. He was angry I hadn't sent the email yet. He asked me to just tell him what was in it. I started and he got so mad he broke up with me. I was distraught and told my parents. He was texting me to send him the email. I did. My parents said to get my stuff from his apartment. He kept calling me back but I ignored his calls and got my stuff. Later that night he explained that he wanted to take back the breakup and work things out. The next day was our 5-month anniversary and we had concert tickets. He replied to my email. He said some useful things but some things were unclear. We were supposed to have dinner and go. I didn't want to do dinner. I just agreed to the concert. After the concert we had a disastrous Uber ride and I had to spend the night with him. The next day we talked and fought and cried and decided to stay together. The next few weeks I helped him move. I helped pack the apartment, I cleaned the apartment, I cooked sometimes, I sold his furniture for him. When he left he didn't text or call as much as he used to in Canada. It was like he forgot me. He kept saying he was going to book my ticket to see him but every day he was too busy partying to book it. One night when he was supposed to call me and book the ticket I got upset in public. Someone I had been chatting with saw I was upset and invited me to have a drink. I told him this and he got really mad and even though I was going to call him when I got home and he was still out drinking himself. He didn't want to have our call. The next day he flipped out and threatened to break up with me. Later in the day he called me and we chatted and he booked the ticket. I went down to see him June 13th. I got in trouble with US Customs who said I had to leave within 30 days and not to come back for a month and a half. M was not very supportive. He picked me up from the airport and we had a nice night. The next day he had some work to do and I went out with a friend. I was soon getting angry messages from him. He saw that I had posted photos of us on Facebook and was angry. He had hundreds of photos with one of his exes on Facebook so I didn't see the issue. He threatened to break up with me and wanted to send me home to Canada immediately. I tried to calm him down. Back at the apartment in New York I calmed him down but he said that I was on probation. This stressed me out. For the next few weeks I did everything I could to get off of probation. I cooked, I organized the fridge, I spent time with his family and friends, I was loving and affectionate, I gave him space when he needed it. I tried everything. It was Eid al-Adha while I was in New York with him and I invited him to come to prayers with me. He didn't want to come but eventually agreed. The service was so wonderful and included people from all over the world in peace and harmony. The sermon was a positive message. After the service M said he doesn't like organized religion and then insulted the imam priest throughout brunch together. It could have been a special memory for us but he couldn't find one positive thing to say on my important holiday. He would often wake up in a very grumpy mood and be hard to be around. In Canada he used to make me breakfast every morning and we'd eat together and chat before starting the day. In the States I had to make his breakfast and he wouldn't even pay attention to me while he ate it. He would have such terrible road rage that I would sit anxiously in the car silent next to him. He drank or got high almost every single day. On our way to his friend's house in Maine he criticized my personality as not outgoing enough and warned me to be open with his friend or his friend wouldn't like it. I tried to be nice and warm to everyone and cried at the criticism. I had been trying so hard with everyone but I'm shy and reserved. I can't help it. He just didn't express himself to me with kindness. My birthday was coming up and the week of he would say every day he was going to make a reservation for dinner but didn't until days later. I was stressed. He didn't get me a present himself. I had to find a present and we were going to buy it together the day after my birthday. During the trip I gave him, whenever he wanted it but whenever I wanted it he would say no. After this happened enough times I brought it up to him and he blew up at me in anger saying that I was not initiating correctly and I was too shy. During the trip he was texting another girl we had met at a party and I didn't realize it until she told me. I felt insecure because I was on probation. I delicately asked him how much he liked her and he blew up at me in anger. A few days later I told him how stressful it had been for me that he had put me on probation, and he apologized and said that he had used the wrong words. One day I wanted a ride around the corner to the nearby running track and he blew up at me in anger for asking instead of delicately saying no. We spent his mother's birthday with her and I gave her presents. Then we spent my birthday together and had a nice time. That said, one day he got mad at me for saying that we might have to postpone our carriage ride in the park because of his work. He got mad saying I was being unsupportive and that he had to work so we could do things. I didn't think he had to get mad at me in that moment. Later in the day he apologized and said he had just been stressed. On our last night together I confessed that he had become more reckless in how he expresses himself with me even though I am sensitive. He got really upset and didn't want to make love that night even though we had planned a special romantic night. We ended up staying up very late talking about the relationship and crying. During our trip, I was so frustrated with feeling like a servant and unheard and unvalued and stressed that I booked a trip to Berlin to visit my friends. I didn't tell him about the trip right away because he was angry all the time. I needed to reclaim my power and individuality. I know that I should have consulted him first. I booked it for when he would be out of town working. I wanted to tell him about the trip, but he spent the entire weekend once I left partying with his cousin and not spending any time texting or calling me for meaningful conversations. Finally, the night before my trip I told him and he threatened to break up with me. We texted and he seemed to calm down. The next day at the airport we were on the phone and he threatened to break up with me again and said some things that really bothered me. When I landed in Iceland en route to Berlin I texted him a long and thoughtful message asking for reassurance after what he had said. When I got settled in Berlin he texted me. He gave me a little reassurance but also blew up in anger at me. The next few days we talked sometimes. Then towards the end of the trip I mentioned that I wanted to go to a club with friends. He got upset and said he didn't want to hear about it. Then he ignored me all night. He had never done that before. I didn't even go to the club. I texted him to say that disappearing all night wasn't okay. We had a heated discussion. We ended up having a terrible fight via text where he said I love you but in this moment I don't like you. I think that's really abusive and cruel to say. I got back to Canada eventually and he went for a family vacation. During his vacation he hardly spoke to me and hardly texted me. I asked him to meet me after his vacation in Montreal since he was close to there and he refused, saying he didn't want to be in Canada. I asked if we could see each other before he starts his new intense job for 3 months in mid-August. He said that he wanted to prioritize his friends and family instead of seeing me. TLDR. He says he loves me but I don't feel his love. I don't feel cared for or like a priority. I feel like he uses too much alcohol and I don't think he truly respects my religion. He denies me whenever I ask for intimacy or emotional reassurance or even basic favors. I just don't feel like I'm getting anything out of the relationship anymore. He used to take care of me and plan dates and say nice things to me, and he never hesitates to pay for things. We've talked about our timeline for getting engaged and what kind of wedding we want. He wants the same things in life as me. Should I give him another chance to fix things or should I give up and break up with him?